So in this slide, I'm going to show you something really interesting. Now, IELTS releases data. So remember that IELTS is owned by Cambridge University. So Cambridge University does all the research and makes the exams and all the academic type of stuff for IELTS. And then IDP IELTS and British Council are sort of they call themselves the foot soldiers of IELTS. So they do the logistics, they put together the exam venues, they train the examiners, etc. Well, every once in a while, IELTS releases this information. So they study test taker performance. So people from all different countries, people with different first languages, etc. And they measure how these people perform on the exam on average. So you can see all this really important information here. Now you've got Brazil. So most of our clients come from these places. The list, if you want to take a look at the information there, well, even though you might not have time, it's probably better to work on your IELTS performance yourselves. But if you're ever interested in researching this, it's fascinating. So most of our clients come from the countries listed here. We've had lots of Brazilian clients recently. We always have French clients as well because we're here in Montreal. And there are lots and lots of people from France who move here to Montreal, and they almost always speak French as a first language. And then they need to take the IELTS exam sometimes they want to move to Australia. That's been the clients that we've had from France, or sometimes they just need English to get some extra points for their immigration, or they want to simply move to another province in Canada, an English-speaking province, and they need to prove their English ability to register with maybe an engineering governing board or something like that. Okay, China, of course, and we have quite a few clients these days from Mexico and Colombia, so people who speak Spanish as a first language. And then, of course, Korea, India. We've had a few from Germany and a few from Egypt as well. And even, I think, a really interesting point in here is when you look at Canada. So people from Canada, this is the average that they get when they take the IELTS exam. So this is fascinating because people from Canada, well, the vast majority who take the IELTS exam speak English as a first language. All right, and then, so you can see here, even people who speak English as a first language, well, the results that they get on average in the exam are over here. 7 in listening, 7.1 in speaking, reading is 6.7, and writing is at 6.2. So I want you to take a look at this whole chart here, and there's something really interesting that comes up that we need to really assess, and I hope this is going to wake you up to the lessons that we are doing, and that is the fact that in every single country, writing is lower than those other elements. Now, why do you think this is? Well, the reason why really is because writing is a lot more structured than other elements of the exam. So for speaking, there's a lot of different ways to say different things. For listening and reading, of course, if you strategize and incorporate the methods, you can get, of course, a high score. But for a lot of people, those ones are passive elements of language. So they can obtain a high score in those elements because for a lot of people, they've been studying English for years. For all of you as well, you probably studied in school for quite a large number of years, and you probably did tons of reading and listening exercises. So that certainly helps you, of course, in the IELTS exam. And for speaking as well, for a lot of you, you've traveled, maybe you're living in another country, and you talk to your neighbors, you talk to your friends on your hockey team, well, hockey team, it's very Canadian, on your soccer team or whatever. And your coworkers as well. So people certainly have a certain ability in speaking. Well, for writing, it's a little bit different because for a lot of you, I'm sure you haven't written a handwritten letter in quite some time. It may be for Christmas cards you do once in a while, but for a lot of people, you don't really write by hand anymore. So a lot of people certainly have difficulty with doing this again. because everyone sends emails these days. But even with emails versus a handwritten letter or a handwritten report or a handwritten essay, the structures are different. So the way that they want you to present yourself in the writing is different from what you use often in everyday life. So that's why the score is certainly lower. But what we're going to do, of course, is outline the steps you need to follow in order to make sure that you get as high of a score as possible. How do we do this? Well, individual feedback is absolutely key. Now, if you take the exam 5 times, or I think I told you in another video, there was a report, a news article of someone in Australia. I think it was an Indian lady in Australia who took the IELTS exam 20 something times and kept getting the same score. Well, the reason why, of course, is because she did not get individual feedback. If you don't know what you're doing right, if you don't know what you're doing wrong, you're going to keep making the same mistakes again and again and again, regardless of if you take the exam once or a million times. So the beauty of the system that we're working through here, and the beauty of these lessons that you are taking, is that, of course, at the end, you do your exam simulation, you get your feedback, and that covers the mistakes that you would have made in the real exam. But you're not going to make them because you know how to strategize and avoid those, and of course, why you're avoiding those mistakes. Okay, so overall, we need to really focus on writing quite a bit because it's the most, well, in some ways, it's the most difficult element in the exam. And you can see the data really proves this because worldwide, people score, well, on average, really almost 1 band lower than other elements. So 0.5 to 1 band lower than all the other elements.